disparity's not too great. I mean, if you really want to have your people have good equipment, you know, I mean, it's not hard to spend. The last microscopes that we bought were nice Nikon Eclipses, and you're talking $35,000 for one of those microscopes. And I know our dairy labs were all like, you know, the ones in the plants were using some old hand-me-down like Reicherts and things that were, you know, $20,000 microscopes. But that hampers the technicians as well. I mean, you know, if you give them the best equipment, and so, you know, I don't remember the last quotes that we got on flow cytometers, but they've got to be getting down into that kind of range, maybe $50,000 or $60,000.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, it's getting closer to, by the time you have the microscope and the investment of the labor and the training, that there's going to be a breaking point there, I think, before long. You know, also the flow cytometers in the past that I had used, you know, they were big instruments. It's kind of like the old infrared instruments for composition in the early days. Those things were like, you know, almost the size of a...
that has changed, I can tell you. That has changed.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they were like the size of a small washing machine, you know. And it had terrible
they're more like
flow systems, and now they're this little shoebox size device that fits on the very corner of the lab and the receiver.
Exactly. It's at least not too far from a shoebox. Maybe it's more like cowboy boots or something, but yeah, something like this.
Yeah, they're really small, and they're much more robust. I mean, you know, like we used to not be able to feed things like cream and ice cream mix directly to them. You had to dilute those because of the pump and the flow through cuvettes and all. And so I haven't seen and worked with any of the new flow cytometers yet, but I know that they're getting smaller too.
So coming back to the methods and pain points, what would you say are the problems with the agar-based and the Petri film methods? Is it about the same? Is it also about interpretation and the laboriousness, or?
Well, a combination. I mean, the DMC, the materials there, the little bit of stain that you use is not very expensive, but the Petri film products used to be, and agar products, I mean, the actual test media itself is still pretty expensive. You know, it's about 50 cents per test, and then by the time you, if you for any reason have to make dilutions of a product, you know, now you start getting into all kinds of additional labor and materials that you got to buy. You know, if you have to dilute a product to plate it out for bacteriology, now you have the cost of a dilution blank, you got the cost of a pipette, you got, you know, there are quite, I forget exactly now, but we were looking at the cost per test of just the materials, like to do standard plate count or BRBA. And I remember just before we left, when we were getting ready to budget, because our central lab literally runs tens of thousands of those per year of all various and sundry types. You know, we do ones for pseudomonads and for the coliforms and aerobic plate count, lactic acid bacteria. But it seems like we were at something like, by the time you included the cost of dilution, you know, of preparing dilutions and the labor and everything, because we used to charge it out at cost. You know, the total cost for us on that thing was like about $11 to run
for one Petri film. For one Petri film.
Yeah, well, because you have the time of the most expensive part is the time of the technician. You know, because
but this is factored in the $11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, and that's what we charged our manufacturing.